Salve a tutti, UC people. Siamo qui oggi a presentarvi il nostro UC Coffee Break. Abbiamo con noi oggi Tom Morgan da Modality System. Il titolo della sessione è How to Extend Skype for Business with Development. Hello Tom, hi, how are you? And thank you so much for being with us.
No, thank you very much. Hello everyone, and I hope you don't mind. I'm going to be well, entirely talking in English because I think you'll
No,
understand me much better in
no,
English
no
than my
worries, go on.
Italian.
All yours now. I'll pass it over, okay?
Great. Thanks
Thank
very
you.
much.
Bye.
Right. So I'm just going to switch the presentation over so you can see my slides. But actually, before I get into the slides, what I'd like to talk about first, and I'm going to be talking about, as Fabrizio said, about extending Skype for business with development. But before we do that, I want to tell you a story, and I want to take you back a bit to the early days of Skype for Business and Link and OCS, and take you all the way back to 2001. And at that time, really, TAPI had been around, and CTI, computer telephone integration, had been around for a little while, but Microsoft were really starting to think about how to get into this world of telephony. And there was a team at Microsoft that were assigned to look at this. And the specific problem that they were looking at was that people would be working at their computers, and then the phone would ring, and they would swivel away from their away from their computer to answer their phone, and the two worlds were separated, and what they were trying to do was to work on bringing those two worlds together. And this team was quite important. They had regular interviews and regular reviews with Bill Gates, and during one of these reviews process, he kept listening to all the ideas they had, and he didn't like any of their ideas because all the things they were talking about were all about copying existing PBX solutions at the time. And he kept saying to them, what is our strategy? What is our strategy? And he was getting more and more worked up with this question of, what is our strategy? And eventually he answered his own question. He said, our strategy is software. And that's really important. What he meant was, fundamentally, the software is at the forefront of the offering. And actually today, that's why Skype for Business can be installed just on regular Windows machines. It doesn't require special hardware. And that's the key for what we're talking about today, is that really by itself, voice over IP isn't enough. The goal is to make real-time communications a feature of just every application, and just almost like a feature that can be consumed by any type of software. And that's really important, because what it means is that Microsoft it's part of their goal to make it possible for developers to build this communication into their own software. And that's really important. We see that even like bringing everything right up to date with things like Microsoft Teams. We're starting to see that more and more now, where you don't go to a separate application just to do your communications. It's just part and parcel of the way we work now. And so that's why this is really exciting, because this gives developers the tools they need to really build in this functionality, this communication functionality, based on Skype for Business, and really build it into their offering and their solutions. So I'm going to talk a bit about all the different ways you can do that. So this is a good overview place to start, and this lists out all the different things that you can do today. And there's a couple that are missing from here that I'm going to go and dig into in a bit more detail later. And you'll probably, you might well be familiar with some of these, and I'm going to go over them kind of just quickly. So they go into three areas. There's desktop, server, and web. Looking at the desktop side, it's really about automating the Skype for Business client. So it's in all those cases where users have the Skype for Business client already installed, but it's, what else can we do make that experience a bit nicer, make that experience a little bit better. An example of that might be if you are, let's say you work for a legal company, and it's important that when you make calls, those calls are billed to a particular customer correctly. So you might have an application that sits on your computer and it monitors the way you use Skype for Business, and every time you finish a call, it pops up a box just to say, that call you just had, was that a call that should be, should we charge that call to a particular account, and let you choose an account and, choose a person, whatever, and associate that call, and then it can do the right thing about just logging that somewhere and logging it to a database. And it just makes the whole process a little bit easier, means that people are less likely to forget that kind of thing. And that there's lots of other little applications like that that solve very sort of specific problems and are all about bringing communication into how people do work. The other way you can do that is to take your existing applications that you have, your existing line of business applications, and embed functionality into those. So for instance, you might have an application that is stock levels or warehouse information, and against particular areas you might have people that are responsible for those areas. So being able to put their Skype for Business presence in your application so people can quickly see who's available and who isn't, that's really, that becomes really powerful, and it's bringing the two worlds together. Whilst we're talking about desktop applications, it's worth saying there's a special mode as well that you can run the Skype for Business client in that's not super well known, but it's called UI suppression. And it's really good for if you want to do a full screen kiosk experience. So you might want to, for instance, to have a kiosk in a reception area, and you don't want to give people walking up to it the full Skype for Business experience, but you just want to give 2 or 3 really big buttons to allow them to call a couple of different departments, maybe to say, I'm here, can you come and collect me from reception or whatever. So UI suppression mode is interesting because it still runs the Skype for Business client so that the code can still talk to it, but you never see any of the UI of the client. You're responsible for writing all of the UI pieces yourself. And that's really powerful because it means you can create something completely customized to your, to be branded to the company or to the particular use case. Looking to the middle section around servers, now there's a few acronyms here. The most popular one, I'd say, and the most powerful one is UCMA, and that is, it really allows you to run applications that run on back-end servers but have Skype for Business capabilities. So you can write an application that can go out and IM particular users or call users even and talk to them and play them, files or whatever. You can hook it up so it comes the other way, so people can call your application. So that works well as an IVR or like a customer center. Thank you. Let us route you to the right agent or an agent who's free, or press 1 to do this, press 2 to do that. You can do all of those things with UCMA. It's really, really powerful. There's lots and lots of things you can do. You can impersonate other users as well. So you can even join meetings and not show up on the roster. And this is the technology that when you see call recording solutions or ethical wall solutions, that's what they're using underneath. They're using UCMA to kind of drive some of that stuff. MSPL is similar to you in that it's a back-end technology. It's really it allows you to get direct access to the SIP traffic and filter out information that's really useful really, really quickly as it's happening over the wire. So that's good for compliance tools. So if, for instance, you want to check that credit card numbers aren't being sent through in IMs, you can do that in MSPL because it will happen as the message is being sent, and then you'll be able to intercept it. There's a persistent chat SDK purely aimed at persistent chat, and then SDN more for the kind of the networking side, networking quality side you can dig into as well. And then over on the website's quite interesting at the moment, and it's where I want to really kind of dig in and look at, because that's been the area there's been huge change in the last 12 months. Because really up until about 12 months ago, the development story was really focused on on-premise and not on Office 365. And a lot of these things didn't work in Office 365. The desktop side, all those client solutions, they continue to work fine because it's really just automating the client. But all the server stuff really didn't work on Office 365 at all. And that's some of the stuff that's changed. So taking all the different tools that I've just talked about and some that I haven't, so over on the website, the two things there, UCWire and Skype Web SDK, we're going to come back to in a minute. And what it meant was that there was this big matrix of all the different tools that there were and all the different places people were using them. So you had Link 2010, Link 2013, Skype for Business, whether you were on-premise or whether you were Office 365, and when you had mobile. And it was getting really confusing. It was getting so confusing. I did this website that you can see on the screen now just to try and keep track of what's going on. And there was a lot of kind of people were saying to Microsoft, come on, like you need to just take some of these crosses and turn them into ticks and take some of these technologies and make them work on Office 365. And that was what we kind of thought we wanted. But actually the trouble is, and the problem is that Skype for Business Online and Office 365 it's a service. It's not your personal implementation for you to add your extra bits and pieces and extra functionality onto. And things like UCMA are so powerful, and you can change so much of how the system works that stuff just doesn't translate to Skype for Business Online. You just can't allow people that level of control. So it wasn't as easy for them to just take some of these on-premise technologies and move them to the cloud. But this was and is a problem for people because it is a service. If you're not 100% happy with the out-of-box experience and you're limited in how you can change it, you're not going to move to the cloud. And that's a problem for Microsoft. You know, they want people to move to the cloud. You know, so that was their problem 12 months ago, and they went away and sat down and thought about it and came up with this new solution. And rather than try and take some of their back-end technologies and make them cloud friendly, what they've done is they've decided to go back and come up with a new way for developers to interact with Skype for Business, and that's really what I want to dig into now. And actually that way was HTTP based, not SIP based, and the reason for that is SIP is very good. SIP is excellent on a good, solid internal network where you can rely on that network layer. But it breaks down when you have people on mobile, you have people on Wi-Fi coming in and out of connectivity. For those kind of people, HTTP is a much better model. And HTTP is stateless, it's RESTful, and it works much better in these kind of loosely connected scenarios that more and more people are finding themselves in. And actually, what Microsoft built this new platform on was based on UCWA, the Unified Communications Web API. And that's interesting because actually UCWA has been around for a few years. And when it came out, we mostly ignored it, if I'm honest, because when it first came out, it only worked on premise. And so it had limited usefulness because you could already do all these things on premise anyway. But here was this new HTTP-based way of doing things, and it was kind of hard to use. And so we kind of ignored it, really. But actually, it turns out that this wasn't, writing UCWA and making it work on premise wasn't the end goal. It was like a stepping stone. And really, we're now starting to see where that's really powerful and where it's really useful, because what that HTTP-based layer gives you is that now they've made it work with Office 365, and sitting on top of it are a number of different tools and SDKs. And there's two on the screen right now, the Skype Web SDK and the Skype for Business App SDK. And they are the two that were created first. They're the first two of the new style of SDKs, and they're built on top of this UCY layer. And I'd like to look at both of them now, because both of these they have actual releases that you can look at and use today. Um, so first of all, the Skype Web SDK. The point of this SDK is to give you a client experience in the browser. So it's about embedding Skype for Business functionality into browsers. And that can be IM-based, it could be voice-based as well, and it can also do things like manage contacts and things like that. But it makes it really good for customer-facing solutions. So you can imagine having a, like a customer portal that people go to, and they want to talk to an agent, but they want to do all that within their web page. And on the back end, the agents will have the Skype for Business client, because you can't expect users aren't going to have the Skype for Business client, right? But you want to bring users into your communication and into that communication story. So that's what the Skype Web SDK enables. Now, right now, it works really well for IM. It works really well for presence. It does work for voice and video, but you need a plugin. You don't need a plugin for Edge, but you do need a plugin for Chrome and Firefox. All this confusingness about the voice and video is going to go away soon, because it's being rewritten to work with WebRTC. That's been the story for quite a long time, and for a while they've been saying it's coming, WebRTC is coming, WebRTC is coming. The reason it's taken so long is that rather than just kind of bolt it on, what they're doing is building WebRTC functionality into the core MCUs. So the MCUs are what host a meeting and manage all the audio and video streams for that meeting. They're building WebRTC functionality into those MCUs, which will actually make it much easier for developers to interact with. So look out for announcements around when WebRTC is ready, kind of later this year, maybe next year, but it's not going to actually require any change in development practice and coding when it happens. They've made a really nice abstraction over it, so you don't need to know whether you're using a plugin or whether you're using a WebRTC. It'll just work. So this is actually something you can do today. You can actually get going with this today. Microsoft are being really open recently around putting all their samples and everything like that. They're putting them into GitHub, which is great because it's one place to go and look for them and find them. But even better is that if we find problems with them, with the samples or things that are wrong with them, they're accepting pull requests, so we can make changes and update them and then go back. I've got some other examples around the Skype Web SDK as well. I'm going to save the examples to the end because it means me dropping out the presentation into the desktop. So I kind of want to do it once rather than leave you guys waiting. So I'll come back and do those at the end. There's a couple of links on the left there as well, just to drop you into just the right place for the GitHub. And then the bottom link is I've done a series of different posts around getting started with the Skype Web SDK, which you might find useful as well. So the other thing we looked at, the other orange block on that diagram, was the Skype for Business App SDK. And what this SDK is for embedding Skype for Business functionality into mobile devices. And it's a native platform for iOS and Android. So they'll literally give you Objective-C code or Java code for you to put into your own applications to allow you to connect to Skype for Business. And that's really powerful if you're a company that wants to do some of this, bringing customers into your communication experience, but you want to do it inside your own application that you already have, that may already be branded, you want to keep that consistent experience, then this is a really good way of doing that. It is limited in functionality today. What Microsoft have done, especially with this SDK, is look at where the use cases are and what's important to customers. And the thing it can do today is anonymous meeting join and audio and video. And I know that doesn't sound, I think it does instant messaging as well, but that doesn't sound like a lot. You can't even log in with it. You have to anonymously join a meeting. But actually, the more you think about it, that is the use case for customers. Customers aren't going to log in as a particular user, but they do want to be able to anonymously join meetings. Now, they might not know what those meetings are, so there is probably some back-end work that needs to happen as well within, let's say, an organization that wants to do this. It might even be, say, UCMA, some server code to create those meetings and then give out the meeting links so that this application can then join them, and that's fine. But what they've done is really focus in on what's the core kind of functionality that's needed here, and they've made that available. So this is in preview today, but it's in public preview, so it's something you can go and build applications on and build ideas on and get people interested in. Again, there's some samples. Now the great thing about these samples is because the SDK is quite limited, like I say, in functionality, and really what it's built for is anonymous meeting join. Those are the samples they give you. So actually, you can take the samples, and they're fully formed sample apps for doing anonymous meeting join. So they're a really good place to start because there's so much functionality in there that you can get going with immediately. And there's 2 links in there for iOS and Android. Cool. So coming back to the diagram again, there were those 2 orange boxes. And there was a big space, a big white space on the right-hand side, and that's where this goes. This is the third thing I want to talk about, which is the Trusted Application SDK. And this is new, so this is not yet available. It's currently. It's going to be out later this year, maybe next year. It's currently a thing that's being talked about, but it's not generally available right now. Excuse me for one moment. Let me tell you a funny story. I came home because I thought this would be a nice quiet place to give this presentation to you guys. And I'd thought of everything. I told my wife, I said, it's fine, I'm going to do this in here. Close all the doors and everything.
Don't worry.
I forgot about the cat.
We are friendly to the cat. Don't worry. This is good.
There we go. The cat
I love this.
There we go. Right. Okay. So I thought I could ignore it, but you're going to hear this cat in the background. Anyway.
Beautiful.
The Trusted Application SDK. Let's talk about that. And this is interesting as well because it's the third thing, but it's all still built on this RESTful platform. Now, what the Trusted Application SDK is about is your back-end service. It's the closest thing to that UCMA that we talked about. It's how can you write services and back-end applications that can still talk in this HTTP RESTful way. They're still built on the same platform, and they work completely in Office 365. And that's really powerful because now you can create those back-end services to talk to customers, to talk to users, to reach out, to have an endpoint for customers to go to, for instance, chatbots or service bots can all come through and be handled with this application SDK. So like I say, it was newly announced. It was announced at Ignite this year, and it's this RESTful server-side platform. They've done a lot of work with the authentication because you can imagine if this is going to the cloud, your application is going to sit somewhere in the cloud. Your user is going to access it, but it also needs to be able to talk to Office 365 as well. So there's a lot of authentication stuff that's gone in, and they've made it as easy as possible. They've actually done 2 different authentication models depending on what you're going to use it for, but it's all OAuth based. So if you're creating an application that users will interact with, but as themselves. So for instance, you might want to create a page where users log in to Skype for Business and can then do Skype for Business things. That authentication model is slightly different to if you're creating a back-end service where the service needs to run autonomously. This all uses the Azure stack, it uses Office 365, and it's completely cloud first. And at launch, it is going to be cloud only. On-premise support is planned, but it's unlikely to be there from day one. So this unlocks a number of interesting opportunities. So things like bots and a bot platform that we've already talked about, but also other things like call control, announcements, and then IVRs, device integration, business integration. So there's a lot of interesting things that you can do here. It's going to be interesting to see which of those features are available, when it first launches, because this is all still too new to kind of know too much about. But this is where we're going to be able to do these kind of service-based things. So this slide here is kind of interesting. I wanted to kind of just show you how you might use all of these different tools together. And you can imagine a situation where you have your solution which is running in Azure in cloud space somewhere up at the top there, and it's exposing an application endpoint to get stuff done, all using Skype for Business. The other great thing about being in Azure is that you can hook into Office 365 and all the Office 365 stuff. So what that means is that if you are interacting with a user, you can go and look up their calendar information, their Delve information, a bunch of other stuff, and you can really start to make interesting, useful bots. You can use all the machine learning stuff that's in Azure as well. You have access to all of that, and really you're interacting back to Skype for Business and interacting with users via the Trusted Application API. And you can then expose that to customers, either just through the standard Skype for Business client, but then you can also light that up on mobile devices, really any customer experience device there. You've got the Web SDK as well for web access. You've got the App SDK as well. So that kind of changes what the kind of grid and the table of the development functions that we looked at right at the top of the talk. And this is now really what it looks like. It splits into two. The older, what I call the link technologies, they're the older style of doing things. They're not going away, but they're less likely, I think, to light up for Skype for Business Online. The lower table is really where all the action is happening right now. And you can see there's many more yeses than nos than there are there. And even planned is better than no, right? So looking at the Trusted Application API, yeah, it's not anywhere right now. It's planned for server and it's planned for online. So that's where things are going. And it's a reaction to, it's a cloud-first world now. People are more loosely connected. And it's really encouraging to see Microsoft going down this road of reacting to the market, reacting to what people are doing, and coming up with new tooling to meet those goals. So I'm just going to, now that I've got over everything I wanted to say, and I've got kind of almost to the end of the slides, I wanted to drop out into my my desktop for a minute to show you some interesting things, just kind of quickly. I just want to show you some examples of what you can do. I'm just going to show you two examples really quickly. The first is around using client-side applications to make the Skype for Business experience better. And actually, it doesn't always have to be limited to just what you can do with the Skype for Business client SDK. It's all around just communication. So one example here is something that the company I work for have done around meeting invites. So I'm sure you're all familiar with the standard Skype meeting invite, and you know what it looks like. Actually, feedback from customers was that they don't like that very much, or they want the ability to change it. So what we did was we wrote a plugin actually to Outlook to take the join information and reformat it to make it look better, make it look nicer. So you can see that you can embed images, you can change the way it looks, you can actually change your templates here. You get a mixture of different ones, but different users can have different defaults. So what we're doing, we're not changing the experience particularly, but we're making it a nicer way for users to join the same meeting. And you can imagine this template could be sent out to end users who don't have Skype for Business and don't understand what Skype for Business is. It can be completely rewritten as a nice looking letter, or just join your online meeting here, and then they will go through to Skype for Business, the online, the web join experience. So that's one thing I wanted to quickly show you. That's called Custom Invite. it's something that's done by Modality Systems, the company I work for. You can find out more on their website, I'm sure. The other thing I wanted to show you real quickly was, and it's going to be easier for me to just show you screenshots than try and launch a demo. Just some of the things you can do with the Web SDK. Now, if you remember, the Web SDK was about embedding Skype for Business into a website, and here you can see an example of where that happens. Here, this is like it's a demo site really around healthcare, but you can see these 4 doctors, and this is my portal I've logged into. These are the 4 doctors and the 4 medical people that I work with or I'm involved with, and I can see their presence here, and I can see that this doctor is available, and right from within my web browser I can start a consultation. And when I do that, behind the scenes, what's happening is a new anonymous meeting is being, a private meeting is being set up, so it's totally secure. There's no risk that anyone else can join it, and then that information is being sent back to the browser, so that the browser can then join the meeting, and then I can have my web chat experience inside the browser. On the other end, the doctor, they're just using the standard Skype for Business client. What they will receive is an IM first to say, oh, this person wants to do a web chat with you. Is that okay? Maybe here's some information about them as well, and they can do that. And then both sides are kind of using Skype for Business, but the user here doesn't have Skype for Business. They're doing it all through their web client, and they can do all that without needing, in this case, because it's all IM based, they can do it all without needing plugins or anything like that. So I just wanted to show you those really quickly, just kind of at the end of what I had to say, just to give you a feel for the different things you can do and the different types of tools that are available. So in conclusion, the point I want to get across really is that Skype for Business it's cloud ready now. It's totally getting there. It's on that, the old way of building applications is still there, but for more and more companies that are going to Office 365, the development story is really there. There's new platform, there's new SDKs, and there's a ton of new opportunities really for people who want to do stuff. And you can take some of those things and you can start writing code today, and there's more stuff coming out all the time, with the new APIs as well coming. So thanks very much for listening. I hope that's been useful. Yeah, there's a couple of links on the page there. Thanks very much.
Very useful, and thank you so much again for this. And actually, I would say that the demonstrations were exactly making the point, all what you've been explaining to us. And seriously, thank you so much again, and also thank you very much for the cameo appearance that we had, which was actually very welcome, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I'll thank the cat later. Yeah.
Right then, cool. Let me just take over again to. Sure. Here we go. So this one was the UC coffee break. We had Tom Morgan from Modality Systems, and the session title was How to Extend Skype for Business with Development. And actually, you could see even with the custom invite or the other applications how deeply you can go and how much you can expand Skype for Business powers. And thank you very much, guys. Grazie a tutti, ci vediamo alla prossima. Thank you so much, Tom, again for this, and I'll see you soon, hopefully. Bye now.